transformation for a sustainable future. My question today is, transformed what for a sustainable future? My life and my work has led me to a deep-seated conviction that the answer to that what is relationship. That we will only achieve a sustainable future if we are able to transform the way that we relate. And that this is one of the most difficult challenges that we face today. Transforming our relationships will not be achieved by systems or institutions. It will be achieved by each of us doing what we can with what we have in every aspect of our lives. There are those who will laugh at this idea. I see you, and I'm writing down your name. I've got a list. Why? Because it feels absurd. It feels too soft. This idea doesn't feel measurable. In fact, it feels absurd. Yet Einstein stated, only those who attempt the absurd will achieve the impossible. Many of the challenges that we face in achieving a sustainable future are connected to our values, our ideas, and our worldview. It is our values that fuel our consumption, our sense of what we need, of what we must have, of what we must consume. It is our ideas that lead to sustainable solutions or to unsustainable solutions. It is our worldview, our view of the world, that gives us or doesn't give us a sense of connection and therefore responsibility to other people. And a responsibility not only to meet our needs, but to meet the needs and enhance the possibility of how future generations will meet their needs. These ideas, values, and worldview are birthed out of relationship. In fact, they are transmitted through relationship. Relationships are powerful because they transform us and they transform those with whom we are relating. This can be intentional or unintentional. Think about those unintentional relationships that have transformed you and what they've transformed you into. Sometimes that has been good and sometimes that has been not so good. And we live in a world where far too often, for good reasons and for bad reasons, we focused on change through force and incivility. This approach only further divides us. It makes it harder for us to do good together, to achieve solutions together, to share values and a perspective on the world that will make it a better place. Yet, the means to do harm seem more accessible and easier to use. I say that again. The means to do harm seem more accessible and easier to use. In my life and work with young people around the country, I've seen the power of relationships to transform values, ideas, and worldview in a way that changes behavior and moves us towards a sustainable future. I've gotten a true sense from these young people and my experiences with them of what transformation really means. And there is an extreme difference between the outcome of transformation and the process of transformation. I get excited when I see the process of transformation. It's something taking on a completely new form that often dazzles us, captures our attention. But the process of transformation is hard fought. You transform while under pressure to conform to another pattern. To make it really simple, it's like you put your batter in a cake pan, and when you open the oven, you got out muffins. That's a transformation. You didn't change what you put in, but what you got out was very different than what you expected. Under pressure to conform, something very different is produced. It is transformed. As a human people, we are under pressure to conform to patterns of consumerism and behavior that shape a world where we are disconnected, where we are unconcerned for our environment, we are unconcerned for our neighbor, we are unconcerned for the challenges that not only face us today, but will face us tomorrow. We are under pressure. but we can be transformed. Relationships are as powerful as the World Wide Web to transmit the things that matter and to transform our world, not just for today, but for tomorrow. In order to share this, I have to talk a little bit about my family. Now, it's always scary when you talk about your family, because they're not here and they can't refute anything I say, which could be a good thing for me, but a bad thing for them. But as I thought about transformed relationships for a sustainable future, the word future stuck out to me. Because I could talk about the world that our ideas, values, and worldview will shape, but I want to talk about what future generations will shape. I want to focus on the power of relationship to shape the worldview, values, and ideas of future generations. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. I grew up in a small town called Eudora, Arkansas. If you've never heard it, it's kind of known for catfish these days. And I was shocked one time in a restaurant to look down on the menu and see that there was catfish from Eudora, Arkansas. It's on the southeast corner of Arkansas, right next to Greenville, Mississippi. And I would tell you when I was born, but I'll just say it was sometime in the 70s. Never reveal your age. And I was in this small town. It had a bustling population of 3,000 people. The economy there was depressed, and it remains depressed today. I'm one of 4 children, the oldest, in fact. And we faced 2 things in my childhood that were significant to shaping my future, but also transforming my life, my ideas, my values, and my worldview. When I was in the 9th grade, I read a book and fell in love with reading. It was A Tale of Two Cities. And the first line caught me. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. And it caught me because in my life, it had been the best of times and the worst of times. My parents had recently divorced, and I had gone through a situation of being a very happy, carefree, running out in the woods, imagine me climbing trees and falling out on occasion, having fun with my friends, young person, to someone whose life was in a major transition. And I didn't know what was going to happen with that transition. And my father, due to the power and the oppression of racism and a number of other things, couldn't take it. And my parents divorced, and my mom had 4 young girls that she needed to raise. And she picked us up and she moved us to the Northwest. Took us on a very scary drive over some mountains with big drop-offs and drove us here to start a new life. What does this have to do with transformation for a sustainable future? The pattern, the probability of my life at the point that my parents divorced was that I was going to drop out of school, that I wasn't going to find a job, that we were going to stay in that little small town, that I was going to probably have 2 or 3 kids, not go to college, and live there for the rest of my life. That was the pattern of the world. What my mom taught me in her bravery, in her love, and in her caring was about the power of what we see and how we act and how we treat ourselves in the world to transform us. My mother took her 4 daughters on a journey. I didn't know I was poor when I was a kid. I knew that my parents had broken up, but I had no idea. And we were poor, not like dirt poor. I mean, dirt poor. But my mom raised us as though we were equal to everybody, as though we had the power to change the world. We didn't have, and my mom taught us to give back to other people. I remember being with places with my mom and her giving things to people. And I look back and I go, I don't think we had enough ourselves. How did she do that? Why did she make that choice? How did she teach us to see past the probability of our lives, to raise 4 daughters who have now been educated, bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, who hold positions in companies, corporations, run their own businesses, who do lots of different things? It's because she knew what transformation was about. Under pressure, in the midst of a probable future of poverty, she saw the world differently. She saw our possibilities differently. She saw her children differently. Now, that would be a great feel-good story if it was just about me, but I'm nobody. And don't worry, I have a healthy sense of self-esteem, but I'm going to come back to why I'm nobody. That would just, you would feel good, right? You could all be warm, we could hug, we could go home, we could even shed some tears, right? But here's why I tell you that story. As I went through my college years, I came to the place of needing to make a choice about what to do with my life. And I spent my career excelling in academics. Academics were like my job. If you could get more than 100%, I was trying to do so. So I get to the point, I've applied to college, I've applied to a master's program to get a PhD and a law degree, and I suddenly have this moment in my life where I realize that's not what I'm designed to do. It's not why I'm here. And I get this opportunity to work for this nonprofit called World Vision. And I'm looking at the opportunity and I'm staring it upside down and I'm thinking this must be a cosmic joke, right? I've been poor, I've been there and done that. So now I want to go work for an organization where I have to ask people for money and try to change the world. I'm looking up going, really? Seriously? Who's laughing at me? I'm being punked, right? This has got to be a joke. But I start that journey. And when I start that journey, I suddenly realize the amazing potential of human beings to change each other's lives, starting with my kids and then extending to the children of the world. Because remember, I'm talking about future generations. And this will all connect. I'm a storyteller. I love to do this. So one day I'm in the kitchen. We're going to digress for just a little bit. One day I'm in the kitchen and I'm talking to my daughter. And I'm almost a compulsive recycler. I'm that person you see on TV like washing stuff out. It's the butter container and I'm washing it. And Jordan's like, Mom, why are you doing that? And I look at her and I say, sweetie, it's because I want your children's children to have a world with butter. And she just looks at me, eyes big, like, children's children. I said, well, if you choose to have children. But it made me realize that the future is every day beyond today where human beings don't destroy the world. Now, if the sun dies or if that asteroid that they promised in Armageddon comes and destroys the world and we have to slingshot people past the moon to destroy it, that's outside of our control, right? But I wanted to instill in her that there's a future beyond today, beyond your lifetime, beyond my lifetime, beyond the lifetime of even your children, and that every action we take contributes to that. But here's the causal link. That came from my mom. It came from my mom teaching me the value of looking beyond your circumstance, of looking beyond today. The world has to look beyond its circumstance. We have to look beyond today, not just to our children. That's just batting for first base. We've got to look to our children's children's children if we really want to bat for the fence. And then my daughter, as I'm talking about this better world, and she goes, and Mommy, that's why you do what you do with World Vision. And I said, now she's got it. Because my mom taught me that it's not about the power of the sacrifice. It's not about that volume or the dollar value of the sacrifice you make. It's about the fact that we can sacrifice and that we all can. And my children sometimes sacrifice some of my time to travel, to go talk about the work that we do. But my daughter, she got it. She said, I get it. It's a sacrifice worth making. And what I'm hoping is that will lead her to sacrifices worth making, to consuming less so that others might have a little bit more, to needing less so that others might have a little bit more, to being a partner in our family in transformation. And this gets to those other kids that I get to see all the time. I want you to know that if kids could vote, we would talk about different things because kids live in a highly relational world. In our work with World Vision, we work in about 100 countries throughout the world, and we get to hear from kids all the time about the future they want to see and what matters. So I want to show you two polar opposites. You ask adults what matters, the economy, jobs, infrastructure, business. You ask kids what matters, relationships, safety in relationships, that they are functional. We're all 12-year-olds inside. We can keep our concern about jobs and add to it the concern about relationships. Why is that? Because kids know something that we've all fundamentally lost. That relationships make the world go round. That I am changed by my interaction with you. That my ideas, values, and worldview aren't grown in a pod. They are grown in our everyday interactions. And I would posit that we have to see our relationships differently and our relationships with young people. We have seen them as a problem to be solved when they are a great and inherent force for good that can partner with us for change. I get to work with young people all around the country all the time who under tremendous pressure to conform, to be a welfare mom, to be on drugs, to be in a gang, to drop out of school, to hurt somebody, resist that power to become something better, not only for themselves, but for their communities and for their siblings. When those who have the least resource amongst us, the least amount of relationship that is positive, the least amount of forces working for our good can resist the pattern and conform and change to be something great, what does that say to all of us about what we can do against the patterns of the world that tell us conform, consume, forget? If we follow their examples, we find that we are powerful in our ability to change and transform. Margaret Mead was right. The only thing that has changed the world is a small and committed and dedicated group of people. I encourage us today, vote with your relationships, vote with your time, vote by being human community, vote by relating in a way that transforms ideas, values, and worldview. Thank you.